Hey everybody, this is Brian with Bear Cards 34, and today I'm coming back with another edition of 1990 Show and Tell for Topps and Friends, where I take a deep dive into the card sets for football from the year 1990. Now these are a deep dive, these are longer videos, these are more for people who love the history of the game and the cards, and so as usual I've got another batch of teams from 1990 starting with my Chicago Bears. So in 1990, they rebounded from a really rough 1989 season. In 89, they went 6-10, and I think that's what happens when you trade Jim McMahon, who won a majority of his games that he started. But they did bounce back, and they improved to 11-5. They were first in the NFC Central. Despite being first, they still had to play a wild card game, and they beat the Saints in that one, but then they lost pretty handily to the Giants, who would go on to win the Super Bowl in the divisional round of the playoffs. So we've got head coach right there, Mike Ditka, two-time NFL Coach of the Year. And next to that, Topps featured a record-breaker card of Kevin Butler. In 1989, he set a record with his 24th consecutive field goal, and that was a record that beat Mark Mosley, who had done that between 1981 and 82. And what's funny is Mark Mosley, a kicker, was the MVP of NFL in 1982. Don't think we'll ever see that again. Now, I also have the Topps Tiffany version of the Kevin Butler record breaker. Topps only did Tiffany with football 1 year, and that was in 1990. The Tiffany versions, I believe there were 3,000 cards of each printed. It's a much nicer card stock, and the image pops a little better. And another way you can really tell that the Topps Tiffany cards are legit is from the back. As you can see, it has a much brighter, distinctive border, much more like the back of the Topps Traded set that came out later that year. And I know sometimes there are warnings on eBay and places like that where people will sell cards claiming to be Topps Tiffany. Definitely make sure you check on the back to make sure it's got that border, that background, so that you know you're getting a legit card. The Hall of Famers featured in Topps included Dan Hampton, Richard Dent, and Mike Singletary. And I also have their Topps Tiffany version of the cards as well. I don't have the entire Chicago Bears team set, but I would like to get that at some point. There's also Jim Covert and his Topps Tiffany card right here. The other Tiffany cards I have include Neil Anderson, one of my favorite running backs of all time, Steve McMichael, and Kevin Butler, as well as Jay Hilgenberg right here. There was a 1,000 Yard Club card made for Neil Anderson as well. He was also featured in the Pro Bowl along with Jay Hilgenberg and Samurai Mike Singletary. We got a couple of All-Pros that Score produced. That'd be Jay Hilgenberg as well as Mike Singletary. And there were a couple of All-Pro cards from Fleer that were inserts, and that would include Jay Hilgenberg and also Jim Covert. So a couple great offensive linemen there for the Chicago Bears. Score also had a series called Young Superstars, and that featured John Roper as well as Trace Armstrong. And one of the subset cards from Score was Mike Singletary Crunch Crew. And the one that I love especially, the Ground Force cards, that one of Neil Anderson. And Fleer put out the Stars and Stripes set, and I did have a Mike Singletary from that. And Action Packed had the All Madden team cards, and that included Neil Anderson, William Perry, and Dan Hampton, as well as this one that I really love of Richard Dent. I think that's a great card. I love Jim Kelly, but you can see there he's really got his hands wrapped around him. Now, if you didn't watch football in the 90s, you're from the a newer generation, there was a time when defensive players could actually lay their hands on or touch the quarterback. If you want to go back and watch some videos, you'll actually see the defenders could actually touch quarterbacks. I also wanted to show off this card right here. I just love that image of Dan Hampton. You see the referee in the background. Dan Hampton is airborne with the blocker on the ground, and you see the football right here, the quarterback, and Dan Hampton, he is just eyeing him big time. So that's a very good Danimal picture. The Pro Set series also included some cards designated for the Super Bowl. That included the Super Bowl 20 right there. as well as the ticket card. And they also had a commemoration for MVPs, and that included Richard Dent, who was the Super Bowl MVP for Super Bowl 20, and a set called Super Bowl Supermen, including Richard Dent, Mike Singletary, and also Kevin Butler, capping off his great rookie season. And they also included some Super Bowl moments, including this one right here with the William the Refrigerator Perry scoring that rushing touchdown. And there were 3 collectabooks from Pro Set. We had Mike Singletary, William Perry, as well as Dan Hampton. I always loved the William Perry. The picture right here, you may have seen that one. That's kind of a classic William Perry image. And then right here, we've got him eating the football and kind of taking care of the Vikings quarterback. So kind of a fun set there, the collectabooks cards. Now we'll go ahead and get into the rookie cards from some of the notable Chicago Bears, and that would include Mark Carrier. No, not that one. We're talking about this one right here, Mark Carrier. He was a 2-time All-American out of USC. He was the Jim Thorpe Award winner in college and just had a very good college career. He's a very talented safety. He actually thought that he was going to be drafted between the top 10 and 20, and the Chicago Bears took him 6th overall. It ended up being a very good draft pick for them. He had a great rookie season. In fact, when Mike Ditka talked about him after the draft, he said, we're talking about a Pro Bowl player here. And that was absolutely true. He had a lot of rookie cards. The only one I don't have is the Fleer Stars and Stripes. I need to get my hands on that one. But as a rookie, Mark Carrier led the NFL with 10 interceptions, which was a Bears record, and he had 122 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and he was voted the Defensive Rookie of the Year. And so in Series 3 of Pro Set, they even made this Rookie of the Year card. There are 2 cards that are number 800. This is 800 defense for Mark Carrier, and then there was 800 offense for the great Emmitt Smith. So he played 7 years with Chicago. He made 3 Pro Bowls. He was voted one of the 100 greatest Bears of all time. He then went on to play with the Lions for 3 years and then finished up in 2000 with Washington. And he was a defensive back coach for the Bengals for a few years. And he also coached a little bit with the Ravens and the Jets. So, he was so good as a rookie that after he got his 10th interception, Mike Ditka had said, I can't give him another game ball. He's already got so many, he has nowhere to put them. But just a great rookie season there for Mike Carrier and Mark Carrier, and one of my favorite Chicago Bears from when I was young. Next up, we've got Johnny Bailey. He was a small guy, 5'8", 190 pounds, but he had an amazing career at the Division II level. He played for what was then Texas A&I University. I think that's where Darryl Green went to school as well. But anyway, he was fantastic. He was the first player and only player that I know of that was a 3-time winner of the Harlan Hill Trophy. Harlan, back in the day, also played for the Bears. He won it 3 times, and he came in second as a freshman. He ran for over 6,300 yards, breaking Tony Dorsett's college record at the time. And he is in the College Football Hall of Fame. Now, granted, Tony Dorsett played against stiffer competition, but Johnny Bailey was fantastic, and he averaged over 7 yards a carry during his college career. He was the 9th-round pick for the Bears in 1990. Didn't do a lot as a running back, but he became a very successful kick and punt returner. He even had a 95-yard punt return for a touchdown as a rookie. And after a couple years with the Bears, he went on to the Cardinals, where he led the NFL in punt return yardage average and made the Pro Bowl in 1992, and he also played for the Rams. Unfortunately, he passed away in August of 2010 from pancreatic cancer. He was only 43 years old. This right here is his action-packed rookie as well. Really enjoyed him for the Bears and was glad that he did well after his time in Chicago. But a great player, and unfortunately passed away too young, and you'll see in this video that's true for quite a few of these players, unfortunately. Next up, we've got Mark Bortz. This is his rookie card. He was actually an 8th-round draft pick out of Iowa back in 1983. He does have a couple McDonald's cards that were made, but this was his first official trading card. And he was a first-team All-Pro in 1990, and he's a member of the Bears' 100 greatest players of all time. He blocked for Peyton for 5 years, and then Neil Anderson for 7 as well. 2-time Pro Bowler, 155 starts, including a Super Bowl 20 champion. And he has the most ever playoff games played by a Chicago Bear. I want to highlight one other offensive lineman of the time who also had a rookie card that year. Two of them. Tom Thayer, he was a fourth-round pick, also in '83, out of Notre Dame. The Bears' '83 draft was fantastic. They got Thayer, Bortz, Jim Covert, Willie Gault, Dave Duerson, Richard Dent, Mike Richardson. I mean, a lot of these key players from their big Super Bowl game. He played his rookie year in '83 with the Chicago Blitz, and he moved around in the USFL for a few years. Then joined the Bears in '85, spent 8 years with Chicago, and '93 with the Dolphins. He was a member of the all-rookie team in 1985, his first year in the NFL. And he's right now he's a part of the Bears radio broadcast for Chicago Bears games. Next up is Sean Gale. He was a 10th round pick in '84 out of Ohio State. He played 11 years with Chicago, again part of that Super Bowl 20 championship. He was a member of the shuffling crew. In 1991, he made the Pro Bowl, and he has the NFL record for the shortest punt return for a touchdown in NFL history back in the '85 playoffs versus the Giants. It was a cold day at Soldier Field, a lot of wind, and Sean Landeta punted, and the wind caused the ball to go off the side of his foot, and Gale picked it up at the 5-yard line and then ran it in untouched for a touchdown. A decade ago, he was involved in it was, I think, more than a decade ago, but about a decade ago, Dateline Mystery did an episode where he was involved. If you're curious about that, you can Google it or comment, and I can tell you more about that. Then we have Wendell Davis. He had just this one rookie card. He was a really good wide receiver. He was great in college, 2-time All-American at LSU, and he was the Bears' first-round pick in '88, the 27th pick. In 6 years with Chicago, he had 3,000 yards. So we're talking 500 yards a season. 500 yards for the Bears, that's like 1,000 yards for any other team, right? So anyway, his career ended after a horrible injury early on in the '93 season against the Eagles. His cleats got stuck in the AstroTurf, and he severed patella tendons in both knees, which is just terrible. So unfortunately, that was the end of his career. He did coach with the 49ers for a time when Mike Singletary was the head coach of that team. Next up, we've got Fred Washington. These are his rookie cards. He was a second-round pick, number 32, out of TCU. He earned a degree in criminal justice there. He didn't start during his rookie season, but he came off the bench to play in 11 games during that year. He showed a lot of promise. I was collecting his cards. I was really excited. I was hoping he was going to be like the next big-time Bears defensive lineman. Unfortunately, just a few days before Christmas in 1990, Fred Washington was driving in a Chicago suburb, and he lost control of his vehicle, crashing into a tree, and he and his passenger were both pronounced dead at the scene. 5 years earlier, his dad had also died in a car crash, and his dad also played at TCU and had a short time in the NFL. It was just a really, really sad thing. ProSet made a card right here, noting his passing. And on the back of the card, it even talks a little bit about that. But his funeral was on Christmas Eve of that year, and some of the Bear players and staff attended, including Richard Dent. And I will show you guys this. So at the end of the season, I'm hoping you guys can see that there. I'll kind of put that up. You see that number 91 on that sticker. I went and looked at the 1992 cards and tried to see if any of the 91 cards, to see if any of them had pictures from that game. And that Johnny Bailey right there, you see that patch on his shoulder with the number 91 and a black football. That was a tribute to Fred Washington. They wore that at the end of the season to honor Fred Washington, which I thought was pretty great. But just a sad ending to a very talented young life. Next up, we've got the 1990 San Diego Chargers. They went 6-10 that year, which was their third year in a row at 6-10. They were coached by Dan Henning, who had played for the Chargers back in the 60s. He only went 16-32 over 3 years. This is right in the middle of his coaching stint. And just to kind of show you a few of the cards related to the Chargers, Lee Williams was the quarterback sack leader for the AFC. And we also had some Pro Bowlers. Had some really good defensive players there. Leslie O'Neal and Lee Williams included, and a really good underrated receiver, Anthony Miller, made the Pro Bowl. He was also featured in the Score Young Superstars set along with Burt Grossman. And of course, as a Bears fan who loves this guy, I just had to show there are a couple Jim McMahon cards in his San Diego jersey. Next up, we're going to go ahead and show Junior Seau, the big rookie from the Chargers that year. On the left, we have Junior Seau's Topps card. He was featured in the Series 1 as a rookie. And then in the Topps Traded, we have him in his NFL uniform, as well as his Pro Set card. We also can see here we've got the score, as well as the score update. And we've got the Fleer, as well as the Action Packed. So quite a few good rookies there for Junior Seau. In 1989, he was the Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year at USC and then became the 5th pick of the 1990 draft. He played 13 years with the Chargers. He left after his junior season to play football. And 13 years with the Chargers, then a few years each with the Dolphins and Patriots before retiring after the 2009 season. He was part of that Patriots 16-0 regular season before losing in the Super Bowl to the Giants. In 1990, he made the All-Rookie team, and that was the beginning of his Hall of Fame career. 12-time Pro Bowler, 9-time All-Pro, 6 of those first team. He's a member of the 100th Anniversary All-Time Team. In 1994, he was the NFL Man of the Year. Unfortunately, in May of 2012, just a few years after retiring, he took his own life at the age of 43. They did discover later on that he had CTE, but he was known as a leader, very passionate person on and off the field. There's a really good 30 for 30 documentary on him, and I mentioned this before, but I just want to mention again, if you or anyone you know is struggling with depression or suicidal thoughts, 988 is a really good resource. You can call them 24/7. They have people who are there to listen, as well as reaching out to friends and family, healthy coping tools, but this is a really good resource for that for sure. I just want to give a real quick nod to Frank Cornish and Courtney Hall. These were both offensive linemen who were part of the all-rookie team their rookie seasons. They both had very solid careers, good offensive linemen. Unfortunately, they both passed away since then as well. But just wanted to note them because I really liked those guys. And then we have John Carney. This is his Topps Traded rookie card. That's the only one he had. He was an undrafted free agent with the Bengals back in '87 after college at Notre Dame. Go Irish. However, he was released by the Bengals before the season even started. He did play a few games with Tampa Bay over the next couple of years, but by 1990, he found a home with the Chargers. After earlier being cut by them, actually. So he went 19 of 21 on field goals over the final 12 games and went on to kick for the Chargers through 2000. He was the scoring leader in 1994. He made a Pro Bowl in 94. He was All-Pro that year, part of the Chargers' 50th anniversary team. And then he went on to the Saints from 2001 to 2006, where he won a Super Bowl. And in 2008 with the Giants, made another Pro Bowl. And after 14 years between being an All-Pro, he made it again. Then he went back to the Saints to finish his career. He played in over 300 games, and he retired in 2010. But just a really, really good kicker. Okay, I'm showing this one for a trivia. If you're wondering who has the most interceptions in college football history, that would go to this guy. He had one rookie card. Martin Bayless. He had 27 interceptions in college with Bowling Green and a 13-year NFL career, including 5 years with San Diego. And then the final card for the Chargers I'll show, this is the final 5. It was a set of some of the final 5 draft picks of the NFL that year. So Elliot Searcy, he was out of Southern, and he was the last wide receiver chosen in the draft. He's only 5'7", but was really fast with good hands. He never really had much of a chance to make the team. Didn't even get a lot of playing time in the preseason, but there's a really good interview with him talking about really giving it his all. The Chargers even misspelled his first name on its media guide, and they misspelled his last name on the preseason handouts. He did make it to the final 60, but he was cut before the final roster. He did play 2 years in the World League of American Football and also in the Arena Football League, too. Next up, we've got the 1990 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They also went 6-10, just like the Chargers. Head coach Ray Perkins, the late Ray Perkins, he went 5-8 that year and was then fired. And then interim head coach was Richard Williams, the late Richard Williams. He went 1-2. He had been their offensive coordinator, and the Buccaneers decided to give him a chance as head coach in '91, so they took off the interim title. But he had a 1-8 start, and they were 3-13 overall. So he was fired after that season. We do have some 1,000-yard club of the other Mark Carrier, who also made the Pro Bowl and had one of those Rocket Men card made. And Score also featured him on their Young Superstars set. A player that I really liked in the 80s, Gary Anderson, signed on with the Buccaneers. He didn't do much with them, unfortunately, but 2 years earlier, he had a great season with the Chargers. He held out with his contract, and then a year later, after not being in football for a year, signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, so here we've got Keith McCants. He was one of the big rookies that year. First-team All-American, unanimous All-American. He even became really good friends with Emmitt Smith in college, and Emmitt Smith even called Keith McCants asking for advice leading up to the draft. He was the 4th player picked in the draft, and for a while he had been thought to be the number 1 lock at the position. And I'll show you guys, here is his pro set card right here with the Buccaneers. Just like Jeff George, who they had made 3 different cards for, Falcons, Patriots, and Colts, with Keith McCants, they also, just in case he was the number 1 pick, they made a number 1 draft pick card of him with the Falcons in the border there as well. So here's the thing. There was some talk about knee issues, family getting money from an agent while he was still in school. So there was a chance he might slide in the draft, but he had a really good combine. So he did still, make it into the top 5. His contract included a $2.5 million signing bonus, which was a record at the time. And on the back of his score rookie card, it actually has a quote from the Kentucky head coach who said, "Have you ever seen a linebacker as big as he is? I never have. He looks like an elephant and runs like a deer." Now, he never quite lived up to his potential. After 1 year as a linebacker, they converted him to a defensive end, and it was said that he didn't really want to convert to that position, but he wanted to do what was best for the team. He was even quoted as saying, "I can play any position except maybe quarterback." His most productive seasons were as a defensive end. In his 2nd and 3rd year, he had back-to-back 5 quarterback sacks. He had 34 quarterback pressures in 91. But Tampa Bay released him after the 92 season, so it was kind of a disappointment as far as his career went there. He signed with the Patriots, but then was released soon after, and then made it onto the Oilers. In fact, he's part of that infamous Buddy Ryan fight with offensive coordinator Kevin Gilbride, where Buddy Ryan punched Gilbride. Now, I know Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan, they came, they were passionate and not always getting along, but Buddy never swung at Mike Ditka, which I think is good. Even, mini Mike Ditka probably wouldn't take that too kindly. But anyway, if we go back to Keith McCants here, he followed Buddy Ryan to the Cardinals in 94, and versus my Bears, he had a 46-yard interception for a touchdown, and he scored another touchdown in 95 on a fumble recovery. Unfortunately, he passed away at age 53 back in September of 2021. He had recently been involved in some broadcasting, and before that, he had been a police officer in Alabama. He was also a part of the 30 for 30 ESPN special, the one titled Broke, about struggling athletes who were struggling financially. I wanted to include another kicker. This is Steve Christie, very, very talented kicker. He was a first-round draft pick number 6 in the draft by the CFL. He is a Canadian. He's from the Ontario area. He spent 2 years with Tampa Bay, going 23 and 27 as a rookie, and in 1990 was an All-Pro and made the All-Rookie team. After 2 years with the Buccaneers, he spent 10 with the Bills, and he was one of the most successful kickers of the 90s. He even has a shoe in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. During that comeback versus the Oilers, he had the game-winning kick in overtime of that 32-point comeback victory, and he also had an onside kick that he recovered himself. He was the first kicker to do that in a playoff game. And I don't know if it still is the record, but at one time, and maybe still, he had the record for the longest field goal make at 54 yards in a Super Bowl. And he has 9 field goals in overtime, which is tied for the all-time lead. After the stints with the Chargers and Giants, he played in Canada for 1 game with the Toronto Argonauts. And I think it was just a chance for him to, play in his home country for just a little bit. Next up, we have Reggie Cobb. He was a second-round pick out of Tennessee, and he had a 7-year career, including 4 with Tampa Bay. In 1992, he was the team MVP. He had 4 100-yard rushing games and ran for almost 1,200 yards and had 9 touchdowns. Very talented back. Unfortunately, he passed away back in 2019 of a heart attack. He was only 50 years old at the time. And I wanted to mention Wayne Haddix as well. This is his rookie card. He was an undrafted free agent in '87 by the Giants. He played 5 years, but the reason I mention him is in 1990 he made the Pro Bowl. He intercepted 7 passes, and those are the only interceptions of his entire career. 3 of those he ran back for a touchdown. And so this 91 Upper Deck card shows him. He was the team MVP in 1990, so I thought that was notable. Okay, guys, I am back to rip another pack, but I've got a special guest. My youngest daughter is going to do this for me. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
All right, here she goes. Do you want me to help?
Yeah.
Okay, so you pull it right here. Okay, there you go. All right. Eric Allen. And if you see any you like, let me know. That's Herschel Walker. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Bernie Kosar, quarterback. Alonzo Highsmith, nice. Can you read what his first name says?
John.
John.
Oh, John.
Yeah. All right, next up. Marcus Cotton. Ooh, we got a Chicago Bear. What do we say about the Bears?
Go Bears.
Go Bears. 1,000 Yard Club of Gary Clark. Very good. Oh, another Bear. What do we say?
Go Bears.
Yay. Yeah, Trace Armstrong. All right, next up, Leonard Smith. Another Bears card. Look at us. What do we say?
Go Bears.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh. Ooh, Packers. Uh-oh. Dave Brown. He was a good player. Okay. Next up, we've got Steve Berline for the Raiders. Swervin' Mervin Fernandez for the Raiders. Ralph Mojienko. And our final card, Vincey Glenn. Good job. And guess what? You get to keep all those cards.
Yay.
Yeah, you got a lot of Chicago Bears there. That's great. All right, you want to say thanks for everybody for watching?
Thank you.
All right, I'll be back with more videos in the near future. And as always, what do we say?
Go Bears.
Go Bears. Thanks, everybody.